Jojo. It was funny because Gary Oldman was talking about working with Tom Hardy. If you know the film that they worked together, leave a comment. But it's funny because he was laughing about how he was writing the reviews in his head as the film was going on. He was thinking about the reviews, like what the reviews would be like. Gary Oldman's a very intriguing and very intelligent genius and actor. Jake LaMotta. No, Cole, that is not Jake LaMotta. The answer is love. You can't read it from here, but it says the answer is love. It's cool, those places they call escape room. I like the way that Gary Oldman says improvisation. Improvisation. Did it improvisation? Improvisation. Almost like improvisation. It's very interesting how he speaks. He actually speaks very unique compared to other English actors. It's very different. It's very much of a rogue that he pretty much almost sings almost all what he is actually talking about. Hey, improvisation. 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 Okay, improvisation, I can see. So it's a different way of looking at it. It's improvisation. Improvisation. Chicken fever. Has anybody ever had the new Midnight Berry Freeze happy hour or happier hour at KFC? I didn't know Gary Oldman was a David Bowie fan. That is really cool. Really, really, really cool. If you look right here, that is very cool. Awesome. Big time fog. Going right through, right across that. We're about to hit that. We're also at half mast too. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. All right. Here we go. Really cool is if you look over to the right here, the trees are kind of dissipating. You can see where we are. And there's a lake to the right. You can see it here. This way right here. Also, there's a plane coming over right about there. This is the left side, and over to the right, Louisville. Some call it Louisville Lake, some call it Hickory Creek. It's Louisville Lake is the area. Elm is not too far from it right here. And we are out of the fog. Big thumbs up. Gary Oldman was actually paid 35,000 pounds for one of his early works when he was starting off. Today, that would be about $48,000 in U.S. currency. That's quite a bit. That's what he was paid for one of his early works. Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman just said that Christopher Plummer hates The Sound of Music. I mean, the musical. And they're all laughing like, ha ha ha. The hills are alive. You don't have to stop before railroad tracks, but some people do it. I think in defensive driving, they say you can stop before railroad tracks, especially if there's a flashing light or something. Leave a comment if you know. But the thing is that you got to kind of slow down a little bit because those railroad tracks, they you know, you can get bumpy. Let's just put it that way. Lake Cities. So I'm in Lake Cities. That's an interesting tower, though, right there. It's very interesting. A creepy road, a little bit. I mean, not too creepy, but just like a little bit creepy. Oh dear. But it's very creepy, kind of in some aspects. It's just something. Maybe it's the way the I don't know. It just seems creepy. Oldman says what's important is the journey. Journey. This is an interesting little pond that sometimes you find in the middle of these places that are kind of interesting. Right about there. It's a very pretty little pond. Little Lake Cities. Lake Cities, Dallas. I go, look how I go like an arrow from a Tartar's bow. Where I went. This is kind of interesting little fog right here. So Gary Oldman actually got an apartment in New York to do State of Grace with Sean Penn. I didn't know that. He actually moved here for that film. He actually got an actual residence, an actual apartment in New York City just to do that. Pretty intense. That's what Winona Ryder said about him in a later film called Dracula. Once again, my ex-mother-in-law's favorite restaurant to get coffee. The Golden Arches, known as McDonald's. There goes the Whataburger.
The minimum wage to $15 an hour.
So they basically have rideshare for dogs now. Uber does it, so the dogs, you know, you just take the dog where it goes. It's amazing these long little roads that you get put on, you know. I think I am using Apple Maps right here, but it's not their fault. Kind of Spielberg kind of thing right here, there. Gary Oldman's talking about Dudley Moore. It's interesting, you can't really see it, but it's a Marco's Pizza delivery. They're really cool because they have some really cool benefits at Marco's Pizza right up ahead. Oh well. Trying to spot numbers here, not seeing any lights on numbers. There's one right there. You can see some numbers there. Looking through that way. Thanks. Yep, thank you. Gary Oldman talks about working with Tom Hardy and how he actually had kind of like a stage fright and got had a problem with anxiety and had to overcome it. And then something clicked, and all of a sudden he was present and in the moment and was listening and was there and doing what he was supposed to do. But he had this anxiety that he had to battle. It's very interesting. I like these little volleyball courts, you know. I wonder if they ever play at night. A little sand volleyball in the middle of neighborhoods. It's amazing that Gary Oldman actually did not know what to do when he got Winston Churchill's role. So they told him, look, you're going to be playing Winston Churchill. And he actually, the first thing he did was, man, I'm going to need some help in pulling this off. Because he immediately did a double take and was like, wow, I cannot believe that I'd actually be cast as Winston Churchill, which led to his first big Oscar win, which was for Best Actor. I go, look how I go. Like the arrow from a Tartar's bow. Well, got a new assignment. Remember, subscribe, give me a big thumbs up. Well, next is Garden Ridge. Just coming up here in about 3/4 of a mile. Garden Ridge. Going into a fog, headed towards Garden Ridge to pick up the next assignment for Food for Friends. And we're actually headed down this way. I think Garden Ridge will be coming up here soon. It's funny because Gary Oldman, when he was doing Winston Churchill, they were basically telling him, look, you're going to get an Oscar for this, or at least a nod. And he was like, I don't need an Oscar nod, you know. But it was pretty much what they had participated from the first moment he had got that role. They were already preparing for it. Oh, Garden Ridge is right up here. We'll be turning this way. You kind of see the moon way out there along the electrical plant. Kind of makes me think of Dracula. And we're approaching another Whataburger, 1950, Harmon Dobbs. It's funny because Gary Oldman actually says the word, you know, like cast. He says cost. We're talking about costing. It's funny, that's kind of what I am. A tea house holic, or teaholic, I guess. Teaholic. That Teaholic, or Teaholic, has a great bathroom. It's like covered in all this Japanese graphic novel. Well, kind of graphic novel, cartoonish. I guess it's graphic novel wallpaper. Gary Oldman was actually talking on the Apple iPod for Hollywood Reporter about alcoholism and his struggle with alcohol, and how the behavior and the way that alcoholics kind of think are the same. So many alcoholics will have the same type of behavior and even think the same way and want some of the same things. They'll have like trendy kind of similar thoughts that all mesh to be similar together. Basically, Gary Oldman was commenting on alcoholism, saying that one alcoholic can recognize another alcoholic because of the way that they think and behave. So they can recognize one another and identify one another. It's funny, he would follow the patterns of people's behavior, but he doesn't actually say the word patterns. Gary Oldman pronounces it as pattern. So he says, I follow the pattern. He's talking about the patterns. So it's a very weird dialect. It's not necessarily patterns, but patterns. So the basis of this interview is to talk about the screenwriter and the wit of Monk from Ventures. But they do talk about The Darkest Hour, which is the one he played Winston Churchill and won the Oscar. And they also talk about most of his career. It goes on for quite a bit of time. It's interesting about David Fincher getting a hold of him, because David Fincher's father, Jack Fincher, actually wrote the script. And I think Gary Oldman was pretty excited about that, because it was kind of a father and son kind of show in a way, or, movie or film. But Gary Oldman's interview here is just absolutely brilliant. I highly suggest it. It's on Apple iPod under Gary Oldman Monk. Or Mank. I'm picking up an order at a Viva Pasta Italian place. The guy's name, The G.